Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sloppy Lab. I'm JT Russell, and if you haven't gotten your Winds of Exchange Game Found notification yet, I'm here tonight to tell you that all you've got to do is go into your email client and hit that refresh button 3,457 times. No more, no less. And if you do that, it'll be there sooner or later. My co-host knows all about that. How are you tonight? Quick draw three, four,
I am
five,
good.
seven.
I'm great, and I can confirm that trick works. It worked for me. I got it to appear on 3,457. However, the USPS has not picked up the package for 5 days now. So, no promises on the actual delivery, but you will get the email if you do it.
And I can confirm it worked for me as well. I've got my first step. I'm as far as you at this point, I guess.
Yeah, it's a race then. You're gonna win the race probably.
We'll see. And we're not alone in the lab. Quick draw. Who do we have in the lab with us this evening?
We are very happy to welcome Ketzer to the show this week. We've been talking about this one for quite a while. Ketzer, welcome. Thanks for joining us this week.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me.
Why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and why you love Keyforge and your favorite things about Keyforge?
I love Keyforge mostly for like the world setting, the universe, and everything. It's kind of like the vast amount of possibilities that you can have narratively from the game. The way that the gameplay kind of captures that idea of what the early Yu-Gi-Oh anime was. You know, it kind of has this idea that everybody that you're running into has kind of their own signature deck. Their cards don't really change that much, and you got a lot of scrappy underdogs who are trying to figure out how to use the tools that they have to overcome some like seemingly insurmountable odds. And the community is like really good too. Like it kind of feels the same way that the characters in Yu-Gi-Oh just like hold each other up and kind of, help each other. And it's got a lot of things that appeal to me in that way. It's also got very good gameplay mechanics. I like the asynchronous turns. I like as much as I like playing tricky trap decks in Yu-Gi-Oh. I tend to play the kind of decks in that game that make a lot of people mad, and people don't like to play against me because they're borderline trolly. And in this game, I don't have that, so I don't get to do that to people anymore, and that's pretty good. I like the way you refill the hand. I like the way the house system works. I like the way that there's no deck out; you just flip and keep going. Um, the amber system, and this is something I really appreciate. Kind of slight tangent about Lorcana. Kind of feels like it's carrying a bit of influence from Keyforge, and we're not about just attacking your opponent. Funny considering what we're going to talk about. That I'm saying this is what I like about the game, but I like that it's not focused on the violence. It's more about getting this vault open, seeing what's inside, discovering, and like racing your opponent to the end. But that being said, there is fighting. You can smash heads, and we'll talk about why you might want to do that.
Yeah, we'll get into that one second. I just want to say that I am pretty fascinated because when I asked you about that, the first thing you talked about was the lore and the universe of it, and you talked about a few other
Mm.
things before you actually were like, oh yeah, and the game's kind of fun too. I think it's
Yeah,
a
I
pretty
think
unique perspective.
that's I've said a few times like there's I've heard people say something along the lines of like, oh, these cards have art on them, and I'll try to respond with something like, oh, these cards have text on them.
I like it. Yeah, you do talk a lot about the art. I've seen in the other Discord servers when we've chatted before, and you've definitely made me notice certain things. Like I wouldn't say that I don't notice the art, but it's not usually the first thing that catches my eye, and so it's kind of cool to have like certain things pointed out about the art that I might not have otherwise noticed.
If you find me on Instagram under Ace of Keys is a lot of what I go on. Ace of Keys on YouTube or Instagram. I'm not super active. I get very easily distracted by way too many projects, and the new Zelda just came out, which is probably the only
Mm.
thing that I obsess over more than Keyforge.
Okay, so
And
JT, I'm sorry, we're not going to talk about Keyforge tonight. We're just gonna talk about Tears of the Kingdom.
I
oh,
was
okay, totally different podcast now.
totally different podcast. I was listening to I forget some news segment this morning, and it was all about how like I don't know, they sold 10 million copies, right? And some ungodly number of the working, well, some ungodly percentage of the working population in the U.S. like took days off from work to play the game, and they're like, "What's going on?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nuts.
Yeah.
But you know, if you find me on Ace of Keys on like Instagram or whatever, I've gone into looking at different little bits of art, like ways that things are connected and such and so forth. Like I did a whole episode previously. Um, I'm sorry, I'm blanking right now. Um,
Oh, you're talking about the Data Forge with
Data
Data Forge.
Forge.
Yep.
Thank you, thank you. I feel so
Hmm.
bad now. I did a whole thing on Data Forge, talking about Art of Keyforge and stuff, and we like went over how in the Sins cards, if you look at the architecture around the Sins and like the ruins that they're in, you can find the open eye symbol of Sanctum everywhere, like in each of the Sin cards, kind of implying that they're like the ruins that they're in are like an old Sanctum structure, and like nowhere does it talk about that except for in those little details in the art. And
That's
there's a lot of
awesome.
cool things like that. Like there's things that people borrow and use in different places, um, like the vine apple tree, the little fruit of the vine apple tree you can see on a can in the background of Miasma Bomb, and it's
Oh
just
my
like
God.
straight taken from the vine apple tree card, and it's just like an in-universe thing that this exists.
I know you said that you're not super active on your Instagram, but if you're going to talk about this stuff, you should be. That's really cool.
I need to get back around to putting out more stuff. I have a lot of ideas, and that's my problem. Is I spend time writing down all of these ideas, but never actually like going through with them. Um, that's something I'm trying to work on this year a bit. But like I said, Zelda came out, and it's been hard. But Winds of Exchange is coming out, and I'm trying to like use that to get myself excited and back into it. Just like you, I'm waiting on the mail carriers to pick it up. It's ready,
Hmm.
but
When did you get the email?
I got it yesterday.
Okay.
Yes, I got it
I'm
yesterday,
I'm
and
dying over here.
I was hoping that that would mean that it would come in time for my birthday tomorrow, but it's not
Happy
looking like that's
Mm.
birthday.
going to happen.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Happy early birthday, indeed.
Thank you, thank you. Happy birthday to Sheep. I think it's Doctor
Oh.
Sheep's birthday today. I saw
Okay.
somewhere.
How about that?
Well, if it's not, we can pretend anyway. So happy birthday, sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Dr. Sheep. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is gonna be really fun. I'm so thankful that you took a break from Tears of the Kingdom to join us this week.
I
Um,
needed a break.
yeah, I know the feeling. I promise I'm not going to talk about it too much, JT. I'm restraining myself now. Um, but anyway, we're here to talk about Keyforge, and in particular, we're going to talk about something that a lot of people don't like to do when they play Keyforge, which is fight. And fighting is something that I think Ketzer you've talked about a lot as like a specific point of interest in the game. And so
Mm.
you had a lot of thoughts that you shared with us on this, and we're just really happy to kind of talk about it here for the next hour or so.
Hmm.
So why don't you give us a little introduction about the overview here, what we're going to talk about with fighting?
Okay, yeah, yeah. So, uh, just to give like a little bit of context, a lot of my gameplay experience is kind of in-person play. So I have a mostly small group, and it's largely untouched by like the larger meta. And our local meta focuses a lot on board states and stuff. Um, Curiosaurus is like a one that
Mm.
we like to play with a lot, and it it kind of starts there. Like this is one of my decks that really got me looking at this, is because I have a Curiosaurus deck that kind of likes to play aggressively. It doesn't have a lot of capturing that you can use to flip with Curiosaurus.
Hmm.
It kind of has more exalting. Um, and so kind of the strategy that I started developing with that deck was to be very aggressive with exalting my smaller creatures, crashing them in and bouncing the amber over. And then there's like a few tricks that Dis has with things like Shadow of Dis and using that. But between that and one of my roommates just like trouncing me repeatedly with an Eldest Bear deck, uh, it got me thinking more and more about fighting as a game mechanic, and I started noticing some decks that like to fight more, or at least function better when they're fighting more, because it helps to. Pardon me if I burp. It helps to compensate for some things that the decks might be lacking. There's also a lot of things that are kind of locked behind fighting that people will often disregard because fighting requires a little bit of patience, a little bit of setup, um, and the meta kind of leans a little bit more towards instant value in a lot of cases. So things like Rustnar can be really good artifact control if you like give it a chance to get out there and do its thing. And I know like there's the argument that like as soon as it hits the board, if it is a threat to an artifact they need, they're just going to nuke it. But you can't always like count on your opponent having that creature control. There's a lot of decks that are very good that people bring out that don't have those targeted removals. They don't have board wipes, and so they kind of have to rely on fighting as well. Um, and if you kind of experiment around with that a little bit more, you kind of see how it can be valuable, even to decks that don't want to fight all the time. It can be good to know how to fight effectively.
Hmm. We
It's funny you
actually
mentioned Rush. Oh, sorry,
we're
we
gonna
might say the same thing
we're gonna
right
say
now.
the same thing. You go for it.
All right. So we every week, as you probably know, we like to talk about Rector, not tonight's infamous AOA deck. And the only artifact control it has is a Rustnar. And we were watching her match. I think it was this morning or last night. I forget when it was.
Hmm.
And it was a Quixelstone match. And she does not want to see the Quixelstone with that deck. And she came down with a Rustnar and then a Dusk Witch. And her opponent, with Quixelstone out, knowing that Quixelstone was like his answer to winning that game, played a Stomp for some instant removal and let the Dusk Witch survive to kill the Rustnar. And that like stuck out to me because I was like, you're letting a Dusk Witch survive for like 3 turns that game because they knew the importance of killing the Rustnar for that fight effect.
And I want to go
Mm-hmm.
even further and say, Rector has 2 regrowths. If during those turns she had found a regrowth to play a ready Rustnar and fight into the elusive creature on the other side of the board, that I think that could have changed the outcome of that game. It was kind of like that critical for this one fight, and um, didn't find it, but it was just kind of like we were all holding our breath, waiting to see if this like one fight happens. Yeah,
It wouldn't be
totally.
an episode of Bottom of the Beaker if we didn't talk about Rector.
Nope, it wouldn't.
And it just naturally comes up. It's like naturally related to the topic at hand every week.
Well, I'm sure I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I'm sure we'll talk about it later. I know it's you almost want to say that Ganger Chieftain just says, "Hey, reap with that drum or not," but it's actually a fight allower enabler. So we'll probably talk about that too.
Yeah. And we're talking a lot about AOA. You have an AOA in the board showing on the stream right now. Curious Artist was a good one you mentioned, Ketzer. Like I hadn't thought about that because I was trying to look through my decks for fighting decks, and you're right, Curious Artist is a good one too. But it feels like we were talking before the show about how AOA and even Dark Tidings both kind of stick out as sets where you want to fight more often than you would in other sets, right?
Mm-hmm. And there's like certain cards that were introduced in that set that can kind of lean into that. Like a lot of those cards that punish you for reaping, that will like stun creatures for reaping, or like Kangafant, kind of put sort of a static effect over the field that more so encourages people to fight. And if you have a deck that can profit off of fighting a lot, that could be like just super one-sided in your favor. I feel like certain cards like Pester Grove can do that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Barrister Joy is another example, not letting them reap. Dry the River, which I believe Murph talked about to some
Mm-hmm.
detail last week during my absence.
That's one of the
Um,
few DT cards that I haven't got to play with or get any like experience with.
yeah. I have one deck with it, and I haven't got to play it very much. I should play that one more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the for better or worse, depending on how much you enjoy reaping. The Dry River, love it, but can make for some MPE too.
Hey, I mean, hey, DT best set, right?
DT best set.
I mean, if you don't like the chains, then you don't have to reap. I mean, it's fine.
Reaping optional, totally optional. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got actually. I think my fightiest deck is a DT. I'll bring it up as well. But I am, and no surprise too that AOA and DT are where we see this come into play most often. I think it's probably fair to say that some of the most, I don't know, prevalent, strongest maybe strategies or deck types that come out of those sets tend to be more board focused, especially compared to Dakota. I mean, Mass Mutation, you could probably say is also doing cool stuff with the board, but maybe less fighting focused, crushing the board more so than interacting with the board. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is one thing I guess I kind of want to say early is that talking about I kind of want to find the right word for them. I think punchy decks I often say or martial decks. Um, just broadly speaking, decks that don't need to reap a lot and can win through fighting more on average than reaping. Um, and we'll get into like how you make amber that way because on the infamous Bouncing Death Quark podcast, if you go back and listen to their episode about flexible board states, and Help from Future Self does a good follow up talking about this episode too. And one of the things that I think was coined there maybe was if you're fighting, you're not reaping, and if you're not reaping, you're not winning. And that can be true sometimes, but I think it's more accurate to say if you're not gaining amber, you're not winning.
Mm.
And there's a lot of decks that they don't need to reap to gain amber all the time. They can kind of make it through other means, and that kind of leaves their creatures to be a little bit more flexible in use in other ways. Um, but all that to say that I don't want to kind of put forward that these types of decks are super competitive and that this is going to be the next meta shifting thing. But they do exist, and people who play sealed, you're going to run into these decks sometimes. And having a little bit of experience and kind of knowing the philosophy about how they want to work and identifying it can maybe help you out in a lot of ways. And I don't know, maybe somebody can find a deck that like, especially with Winds of Exchange coming out, maybe somebody that can find a deck that does something like this and really kind of sweeps the meta with this new sort of philosophy.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get in early on the conversation.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned sealed as well because you're right. Like I find that
Mm-hmm.
I definitely fight more often in sealed games than I do in just regular Archon games, just because you're not really going to have as much creature control if it's just kind of a random deck as opposed to the meta is so focused on creature control at the moment. I think that if you're going to like a competitive event, you're going to have to bring some creature control unless you're playing like a specific combo or some other answer for it. But it's kind of rare. So when you're playing sealed, you are going to fight more. And you mentioned Winds of Exchange. There's a lot of really good Brobnar fight effects in Winds of Exchange
Mm-hmm.
that I think we are probably going to see that emerge pretty early on, maybe even as a more competitive archetype than we currently have with these martial decks.
Yeah, I really like the term martial deck and this idea of decks that want to be fighting more than reaping, and not necessarily even just as a board management kind of vector. I mean, maybe you can walk us through the different reasons why you might want to be fighting in a second. But the deck that kind of immediately came to mind for me is a DT deck, G Nor. I'm not even going to try. Quick draw. Can you help me with the pronunciation on this? G Nor.
This is French, so it's not my specialty, but I would say G Nor Dame du Vestibule du Chahut.
Well, we'll come back with unless Ketzer has got the French, we'll have to come back with Murph maybe at some point. No.
If it was German or maybe Italian, I could help out a little bit. But
All right, so we'll revel in our ignorance, but yeah, a very punchy deck, a martial deck as it were, with 2 copies of Z-Force Agent, triple one-eyed Villa, as our Polish teammates would say, and an assert dominance as well as a hand cannon, right? So lots of things in here that are saying yes, please fight. You've got a Miliobi, as they say, and I actually played this game in a match earlier today, kind of to get in the fighting spirit, as it were, and jokingly said to my opponent, "All right, this game, in the pre-game banter, this game, no reaps. We're here to fight." And I think I reaped once in the first game and ended up winning that one. But
So you cheated, is what you're saying.
Basically, what I'm saying is I cheated, but set that aside. Still, still, but yeah, I
It's
mean,
pretty good.
if you can put down a Triska, a ready Z Force agent with 4 upgrades on it, it feels pretty good, and you get to a point very quickly where your opponent may not be wanting to put targets for you to fight into, and you're often sad. You're often sad about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, a very much a specimen of a Marshall deck, and the one that came to mind. Yeah.
That's actually a pretty good example of the first of these three reasons that I have for fighting. Um, and I kind of like broke it down. There's three main reasons to fight in like the simplest terms. There's gaining fight effects. It's like something. It's like an after fight effect, or it's something like a war chest that requires fighting to trigger. So like triggering effects through fighting, uh, removing creatures from the board, and that includes like fighting your opponent's creatures off the board or fighting your own creatures off the board, be it to trigger a destroyed effect, get Amber over to their side, reduce your battle line for some specific purpose that you have tactically. And then the last one is putting damage on board. And the putting damage on board a lot of times is kind of just a road to removing a creature from the board. But there are actually like a lot of ways that you can manipulate the damage on board in your favor. Um, in the live deck blogging channel on the Sanctimonious Discord, I kind of placed a curse on the whole channel where if you're opening a house that has Dis in AOA or Worlds Collide, 95% of the time you're going to get Misery Exploits. Because it's a card that I have gone to bat for as being good. Because you can put like damage on the board, you can get like a huge burst out of it, and things like that. I really appreciate like damage on the board. Uh, Works for those things like Misery Exploit, Darna, Gizzleheart, Cleansing Wave. There's like a lot of good examples. Vigor, even. Um, but there's also setting up damage in a precise way. And you see this a lot with Shadows. Shadows is one of the houses I think that has a secret love of fighting that not a lot of people tap into.
Hmm.
Where you notice they have a lot of like 2 and 3 power creatures. They have a lot of skirmish going on. You've got things like Francis the Economist, and they seem to be like 1 or 2 power points lower than your average creature, which are like 3 and 4. But they also have a lot of cards that set up for finishing things off with 1 point of damage. So you've got like Seeker Needle, you've got the Vendas, you've got Throwing Stars, you've got Mac the Knife. I have a list of them somewhere
Finishing
here.
blow is one that comes to mind for me.
Mm-hmm.
Finishing Blow, Kerwallop, a
Kerwallop,
big one
yeah.
from DT. Sucker Punch, even. It does that 2 damage, and then you archive it, you use it again. And so they've got like a lot of tools there. And some of those creatures, like Umbra, are even stealing as they're doing it. One Eyed Willa, stealing as they're doing it. Um, and so Shadows is like really good about manipulating the damage on board. And I think those are kind of like the three main reasons to fight. I think effects, removing creatures, and dealing damage to manipulate the board state.
You're talk about misery exploit. I am in the camp that it's not a good card, but you make me think that like this is probably a playstyle thing too. Like you could have a. We've talked about how you can have a single deck and give it to 2 different people, and they're going to play it totally differently. And you maybe lean into the fighting a bit more, which could take advantage of a card like misery exploit. So in your experience, you could be playing a deck and get a lot of value out of it. I might play the same deck and not get any value out of it if I'm not going to be, playing into that style of fighting and setting it up as much as you might.
And that could be a good thing to take into like adaptive. Yeah.
Yeah. If are you playing in Kagi this next season? I think.
I'd like to. I'm working on getting a more permanent computer setup so that I can actually start participating in stuff online again.
Yeah.
I've only
I
been
didn't.
in a few online tournaments.
Yeah. I didn't think I'd seen you in there before. But it would be interesting to run into you and getting your 6 amber off Misery exploit in some game. It will be a memorable occasion. So hopefully you can make that work. Kagi signups. I think there's like 28 people in, which might be the biggest season ever.
Ooh, okay. I have to
Could
keep
be
an eye
fun.
out.
So
Well,
yeah, good time to get in if you haven't.
I have a very fun misery exploit story. Again, not tonight's story, from today, and it also ties in very well to the to our topic. But she was playing earlier today and played mimicry to copy none other than War Song. Got some fights in
Mm.
that were maybe not fights you would do normally, but the War Song kind of made it worthwhile. And also to set up the misery exploit, and the opponent being having their wits about them made some fights that you probably would not normally do otherwise too, just to get the damaged creatures off board and avoid a misery exploit. So it was kind of like this really fun like mini mind game around managing creatures that were damaged, and using kind of fights to like get rid of your creatures or to damage your opponent's creatures. But
Mm.
yeah, had to throw it in there with the misery exploit. But and Warsong. How often does Warsong get mimicry? That might be the first time ever that Warsong has been mimicry. I don't know.
Is that a gain one each time you fight?
Gain one each time if you use a creature to fight. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
solid.
Solid. Solid.
So I loved your three kind of reasons. A good reason to punch him, as you had described it earlier. And then you had a few other notes in here that I definitely wanted to hit on as well. You had a lot of. I can tell you put a lot of thought into this whole thing. I've never considered fighting as much as you have, I think, in a lot of the notes that you shared with us. So I genuinely appreciate that. Um, you were
I do a lot more thinking about the game than I do playing the game.
you're like a philosopher then.
Yeah, yeah.
Philosopher of the game, indeed.
I love it. Um, you had some nice catchphrases too. Kicks into cash was one.
Yeah, yeah. So that's I actually kind of like made a whole notebook page kind of breaking down how many different ways you could take advantage of fighting to gain amber, because that's kind of like one of the big things, right? Is if you're giving up your reaps to fight, you're effectively reducing the amount of amber that your deck is likely to generate, and that's like definitely true. But I came up with like kind of a big sort of list of things, and I don't want to. I'm not gonna like exhaust the list or anything. But there's a lot of like obvious ones. You have like Dark Fairy, Z Force Agent, Baldric the Bold, um, Headhunter, things that will just instantly gain you amber because you fought with them. You've got other things that are like less considered. Like I like to think that there are four kinds of fight effects, and the two obvious ones are before fight, which if you look at Eldest Bear gains you amber before the fight, period. You have after fights, like the other ones that I mentioned before. And then there's two secret fight effects. There's destroyed, so if you fight with your Dust Imp, you're probably going to get 2 amber if it's destroyed. It kind of is the opposite to after fight, because in an after fight effect, your creature has to survive. If you
Mm-hmm.
treat a destroyed effect like a fight effect, you're doing the damage of your creature. So you're putting damage on the board, which might further one of your other goals, and you're also triggering that effect. Um, that's why I think we were talking about Curiosaurus before, and that being kind of like my thoughts on fighting. Curiosaurus just gives creatures a destroyed effect. It gives them a reason to fight, and that reason is like shifting and manipulating the amber across the board. And it gets very complicated. That's like maybe 2 or 3 whole other podcast episodes to go into the calculus and management of like really trying to take the most out of Curiosaurus. But that's it's a good example of destroyed effects being useful for fighting. The other one that's kind of the semi-secret is secret fight effect is stuff like Brain Eater, Overlord Grecking, things that don't say like fight or after fight colon before fight colon. They say something all in non-bold text to the effect of after a creature is destroyed fighting this um, with this Brain Eater, another one that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a lot of different things that are kind of sneaky as far as fight effects go. I do have a piece of trivia for you.
Ooh.
Um, Out of all of the houses and all of the sets, which house in which set has no after fight effects?
I am looking at your notes,
Is
and
it in
the
the
only reason
notes?
I know that I
Oh,
think
okay,
it's
it
in your
is.
notes. I'm looking at that table. Actually, I was about to pull that up. I don't think I would have got that. And now when you say these, it does not have any after effects. You're talking about also things like Brain Eater, which doesn't specifically say fight or after fight, right? Like you're talking about no cards whatsoever that give you a like text benefit for fighting, right?
Right, I believe so. Yeah.
Does JT know? Since I already cheated.
Hmm. And we're counting. Ooh, I don't know. That's
Does anyone in the chat know?
I don't even think I can see the chat.
Oh,
chat.
okay. AOA Shadows is one guess from Dinobot. That is not correct. AOA Shadows has Umbra.
So any sort of fight effect. Wow, that's tough.
Let me go to this page actually. AOA Shadows has two after fight effects.
That's right. I don't
Umbra's the one
remember.
I can think of.
Oh,
And
maybe you're counting Little Nif.
Lil Nif probably counts as one. Yeah.
I don't know if I counted Little Nif on that.
Hmm. Uh, I almost want to say, no, no.
How about this? How about we wait for JT to figure it out, and then we'll just make him edit out this segment in the podcast to make it seem like he got it really quickly.
Yeah, whatever we say now, I'm just gonna. I'm. This is already dead time. I'm just cutting. I'm just gonna cut right to
Yeah.
like you're gonna say, and then I'll repeat the answer. You know.
Okay, yeah. So sorry to drag this out a bit. Coda Untamed, surprisingly.
I was gonna say so. It's Coda Untamed.
Good job.
You are
Nice.
correct.
Very smart, JT. Dang.
Yep.
The corollary to this is the one that stuck out to me in your notes that was just mind blowing to me is which house in which set has the most fight or after fight effects. See if JT knows this one.
Sorry, I was just in my mind playing out how I was gonna edit in a bunch of wrong guesses from Dinobot. What was the question again?
The exact opposite of the previous piece of trivia is which house in which set has the most after fight effects.
I would probably guess Worlds Collide Star Alliance, just because pretty much every creature is printed with Fight Reap, right?
Yep.
Bingo.
Play Fight
That is
Very
Reap.
nice.
exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot of that.
yeah. Play
No
Fight Reap.
no editing needed. You got that one like really quickly.
But now there's doubt in the system. The listeners are going to be like, they edited that one in.
26 was your count?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
And so it is like it's not really widely considered because a lot of those creatures might be like 1, 2, or 3 power, and they're
Yeah.
not often going to survive that fight. But it is very important to remember fighting against an elusive creature to break their elusive does
Hmm.
count.
Yep.
And having a house that can gain a lot of benefit through like doing that and kind of teaming up, I think that's something to not be overlooked.
For sure. Commander Chan's a good one for that because you never want damage on Commander Chan, but he fights an elusive. Use an off-house creature to fight and kill it off. But
Hmm.
like, how many people actually like? It happens, yes, but like, I would say 80% of the time you have a Kirby out or you have an Information Officer Gray out. You're not fighting with them, but those are actually fight effects.
Usually, but
Yeah.
there are things to do cross house support. So a lot of
Hmm.
cards like Seeker of Truth or Ganger Chieftain or Grey Rider um, assert dominance. There are a lot of ways that you can kind of off house cheat through fighting that only specifically allow you to fight, um, and that might be all your deck has as far as house cheating goes. Is maybe it's just allowing other cards to fight.
Cool. Really cool example of this. I have a really fun DT deck that hits the Varoctor combo, the groundbreaking discovery combo, rule of sixing Doctor Varoctor, but with not Unity or Discord, which is the typical one, right? But with an assert dominance. So you empty their board,
Mm-hmm.
and then you keep looping assert dominance with Feroctor and reckless experimentation as the way of running it. So really fun, and it's one that folks look through your list and they're like, oh, there's no Unity or Discord, like whatever. They'll shed a key from me maybe, but there's not going to be a big bursty rule of six turn, and the fights get them. The fights get them in the end. Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up because there was a point that I kind of wanted to bring up, and I don't know if this is like maybe out of order that I had things, but it's the sloppy lab.
That's
That's
right.
right. You are
So
on brand.
Yep.
you were talking earlier about being sad about having a deck that you have your fight effects, but if your opponent's not playing any creatures, you're not getting your fight effects. Um, and that is true for like some decks, like what you're saying, that might be like a total shutdown for everything that you have bringing to the table. But there are certain things that can take a lot of advantage out of having an empty enemy board, and we're going to see this a lot more when Winds of Exchange starts coming in. I think um, where it kind of starts. The biggest famous example is Gangernaut, right?
Hmm.
Um, if your opponent has an empty board, that ready fight turns into ready. If you have Gray Rider, so if you have double Gray Riders, those ready fights just become ready and then do whatever, reap. Assert dominance. There are a lot of cards in the game that will ready a creature at the drawback of forcing them to fight. Might Club, will enrage a creature but ready it. Uh, Gizelhart's Zealot comes in ready but enraged. And if you're just fighting so much that you're just beating everything your opponent has off the board as soon as they play it down, you're kind of becoming a board bully, and you're using their empty board to your advantage, and you're just kind of like walking around the ring after you have them knocked down, just kind of flexing it up, you know, really kind of like vamping the entertainment. And there's other cards that kind of like specifically want you to do this too. Like famously, Triumph is not talked about a lot. It's you see it, you're like, that's not going to happen, but it has happened. I know people have gotten that card off,
Yeah.
and I'm sure either they had a good board wipe, like a really nice Axiom of Risk. That card's pretty nuts sometimes in the right context. Um, but a lot of people have probably gotten that board dominance through fighting. Another kind of sneaky example of this that is something to look out for if you're looking for a deck that wants to fight a lot and kind of keep this dominating board state of having your opponent clear. Science Officer Kincan. If you can identify a house of theirs that has no artifacts, and you can just keep targeting that house and bully that house off the board constantly, it gives them a position where, as long as your Kincan's out there, they do not want to call that because that's just giving you amber out of their pool.
Yeah, that's a great strategy with Kincan. I have some really fun Kincan decks with 3 or 4 of them, and it's a lot of fun to like continue to remove their cards from the board. There's a little bit of artifact control in it as well, where you can bounce the artifacts with like a Grasping Vine, something like that. Um, so yeah, fighting is another great way to take advantage of that. That's a good point. And you were showing St. Russell's um, Triumph deck, which pulls it off pretty often, right?
Yeah, and very reliably on the back of that axiom of Gris, city state interest. But there's very often fighting happening on that turn. You know, you can't leave them with creatures that have amber before you play axiom, so you're actively getting those off the board. Uh, and even if you don't have the axiom, yeah, you're fighting in with those Theros or some off-house creatures, thanks to Hisaro, so that you can pull off Triumph. And it's super reliable, but definitely he's fighting to manage the board state, to angle towards that Triumph key. Mm-hmm.
And I've seen people use fighting to set up better board wipes. Like you're saying, using it to remove the creatures for Axiom of Grisk that aren't going to be affected by the board wipe. Grand Melee and Infighting really play into
Mm-hmm.
this in DT. And I think Sanctum and Untamed in particular, along with Shadows, really kind of offered more for that side of things. They offered more reasons to fight in Dark Tidings. So you have stuff like Hold Fast that if you're fighting with, you're going to get more out of. You have stuff
Mm-hmm.
like Alms Master. Little Nif came back. You've got the One-Eyed Willa. Um, I almost said Dodger, but I'm remembering that that's a legacy that I have in a specific deck that's not actually in DT. Um,
That's a good legacy though to have, I think, in DT.
That is a really cool one. Yeah.
it is a fun one, yeah, yeah. And they also have the sort of setup and knockdown type things with stuff like Kerwallop and Seeker Needle coming back in. I'd even put Hart Simpson in the line of things that want to fight. Because if he's fighting things off that are smaller than him, you're basically getting the same effect as Umbra or Dodger. Um, and then you might even want to fight with him again to just get him out of there.
Yeah, or even
So
like
it's
put 2 to 3 damage on him so that they can't take advantage of him the next turn.
right, right.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you have any favorite synergies? Like if you are like, let's consider you. Maybe you can correct me here. Are you like a player that wants to fight more? You like these decks? You lean into that strategy. If you open a deck, what kind of specific cards or synergies are you looking for that you haven't mentioned already to take advantage of this kind of strategy?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Um, I particularly like things that manipulate damage on board or take advantage of damage on board. So I'm a huge fan of Cleansing Wave. Cleansing Wave is one of my favorite cards in the game because it offers such an incredible burst if you can set things up properly. Um, I often look for things that allow you to fight out of house. So things like Gauntlet of Command. I'm a huge fan of Gauntlet of Command, and I'm also a fan of Might Club, but Might Club doesn't have that house cheating that I really enjoy. So if you
Mm.
look at like Coda, um, I could make an alliance deck in Coda that has triple Gauntlet of Command with a War Chest and 2 Loot the Bodies. It's only got 2 Brobnar creatures. It was a really early printing, but it's got those 3 gauntlets, and I've got another that I can put with it that has 3 bat drones. And Logos
Mm.
has a Kehoe the Adventurer. Um, there's a Shadows House I have that has 3 Dodgers, um, and I think an Umbra and a Makasasp. So you can kind of see how things can come together, especially with like out of house fighting. I love Gray Riders. I love anything that can just like get oh sorry anything that can just sort of get my teammates into the fray with me and kind of spread the fighting around a little bit more. Um, I really enjoy being rewarded for finesse. So I'm a huge fan of Shadows, Seeker Needle, um, Throwing Stars, those things we were talking about before.
Very few things feel better, like more satisfying than when you get, you know, three, let's say 3+ amber off of a Kerwallop. There was, I think there was someone in the chat, I think I want to say it was Murph, recounting what a 12 amber Kerwallop. But when you can set that up, it does take finesse. But when it comes together, it is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
I think that's very, very fitting for Shadows, like
Mm-hmm.
having the finesse style of
Yeah,
doing damage and creature removal.
that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I do like that. I love that they have that as part of their identity, and I had never thought of it, as their mechanical identity. I'd never thought about it as a thing that encouraged fighting, or really benefited from it. Because you definitely don't. The first thing that comes to mind when you think of Shadows isn't that it's a fighty house or that it's a house that cares about you fighting, even from among your other houses. But certainly its damage suite or its creature control suite of effects fall into that category of small pingy damage, or things that are going to finish off an already damaged creature. So that's really cool. I hadn't thought about it that way before.
Yeah. You mentioned manipulating damage, and the first thing I thought of was Entropic Manipulator, which JT and I were talking about before this. Some decks that are really trying to put damage on the enemies to set up a Mars Needs Amber, and you could even just like fight into one creature, play the Entropic Manipulator, spread it out across all of their creatures, drops the Mars Needs Amber. Um, so we both were admiring a few old AOA decks we haven't dusted off in a while, um, with that kind of fight forward strategy to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mars is a tricky one. When I look at each of the decks, kind of like and how much they kind of support the idea of fighting or support these sort of strategies. Um, Mars doesn't like have a ton. It has a lot of readying. It has some really big creatures. It's got the Mars Needs Amber, which kind of encourages you to put that damage out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got Collector Worm infamously that like loves fighting. And if you've got stuff like Gray Riders and Dominator Baubles using it out of house, was Dominator Bauble in AOA? Anyways, um, you know, it becomes
I don't
it
even
becomes a
know.
menace, like an
Yeah.
absolute menace.
And Mars
Uh,
doesn't have any skirmish though, right? That I can think of.
I don't know that they have any skirm. I think they might have a new one.
Okay, yeah, I'm not as familiar with the Winds of Exchange yet, but yeah, like Collector Worm is probably the one that sticks out. You're right,
Mm-hmm.
because it kind of has skirmish just with the 5 armor.
That is kind of on the list of cards that I had that can the my how to turn kicks into cash, uh, where you have cards that can get you amber through fighting. I think the only Mars cards that I have in here are Mars Needs Amber and Zizak, which is a new one. It's the
Mm.
one that has a splash attack, and if it destroys something with a splash attack, it can ready again. So if you're using that to kind of clear out their board, you can get another reap out of it, and you can kind of ready it again, and you can get an amber out of fighting effectively.
That's a pretty
Uh,
cool card.
but they don't really have a lot of ways to make money off of fighting.
Yeah. So while we're talking about Winds of Exchange, you seem to be pretty familiar with some of the new cards, the spoilers and stuff like that. I guess we'll say spoiler alert for anyone listening. Um, how do you feel Winds of Exchange stacks up with regards to the fight effects? Like Brobnar is one that obviously everyone talks about, um, and the Mars creature that you talked about is pretty cool as well. Is there anything else that stuck out to you in Winds of Exchange besides the Brobnar?
So Brobnar is really bringing it back. I do like that. Um, there is a bit of the idea of destroyed effects being treated like fight effects, especially with how many small tokens have destroyed effects. So you've got the fish, you've got the prospector, you've got the much hated cadet, which people are gonna like really try to figure out how to use. And one of those ways that you can use that is using it through fighting, right? So if you have stuff like a Grey Rider that can come down and fight with it, um, unless I'm misremembering Cadet and it only readies the Star Alliance neighbor that it has. Um, but I'm thinking that if you drop a Grey Rider next to it and fight with it, you can put a little bit of damage on the board, maybe set up for a Mars Needs Amber that you have coming, um, and then ready up another creature, get that extra Amber out of it that you wouldn't have gotten if you just. Well, I mean, you would have gotten it if you used that creature to reap, but you wouldn't have gotten the damage on the board as well. And that's kind of like part of the idea of um, incorporating fighting into your methods of gaining amber is because it also helps control the opponent's board. Which, if you're thinking about it in a way of controlling their delta, and you can kind of size things up and consider like, okay, they don't have a ton of amber pips. They definitely need to use so many creatures to reap. If I can keep them tapped down, if I can like strategically fight in a way that's gonna like reduce their delta, I can effectively like reduce their A. And if you're looking at like arc scores, you're kind of turning your effective power. You're helping turn that into more creature control, and therefore like more amber control. Not by like a ton, but it's gonna help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the arc scores are interesting because each creature, or almost every creature, has baked into it like what's called a creature bonus on arc. And I think it's generally assumed the creature bonus is basically you're going to reap with this, right? Like
Hmm.
it's just baked into the score. Like obviously you're going to reap, and you're talking about like reading the was it the effective power, and so there's like different ways you can kind of analyze the arc and like how often you're going to fight, and maybe if you see a deck that is going to um, fight more often than reap, then you might kind of adjust that, see that effective power, or sorry, the creature bonus, and say like this isn't really expected amber like it might be in another deck.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah.
That's
Particular.
Oh, sorry.
No, no, go for it.
I was gonna say that's one of the things I think uh, Gizelheart, Mad Prophet Gizelheart, is a super underrated card in a lot of ways. Um, because especially in Dark Tidings, when you have a lot less mutants to kind of clog up, I think the only mutant that carried over was Bulwark in Sanctum, um, and so Gizelheart, you can use your creatures to like fight your opponent's board down. Any survivors, if you can, especially if you can kind of strategize in a way that you're going to help center your leader, That's another reason you might want to fight, removing your own creatures to help center things, setting up for things like leaders, or setting up for things like harmonic ritual by getting rid of those creatures that are sort of blocking up that battle formation that you want. Um, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Murph
Mm-hmm.
correcting me, saying effective power is C. Yeah, the creature bonus is like almost like E, I believe. Effective power is like C. So it will affect kind of like how you approach a deck if you're looking at the different stats that you have, the arc stats. Thanks, Murph.
And there are like I've seen a lot of high level or high SAS Worlds Collide decks in particular that have very low creature control, but they might have like 23, 24 creatures, and some of them are like big creatures. You might have things like reassembling automaton that you can throw a few power counters on, and just like keep using that as your creature control.
Yeah,
And
especially if it's one of those Worlds Collide decks that's got a lot of efficiency with it, so you're able to quickly build up boards. Zoomies, as some might call board flood, kind of similar. If you may not have any board wipes, you might have a 6C, but if every turn you're dropping 4 creatures, then you can afford to fight a little bit more often.
Mm-hmm. Almost like you were talking about Brickblade there.
Well, I mean, you could be talking about any Worlds Collide deck if you say high SAS, low C, because that's pretty much all of them.
6.5C on Brickblade. Yeah. 20 creatures, but lots of efficiency. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're managing my board. I'm not worried about my own board control. But yeah, using my creatures to fight. Mm-hmm.
that's
Totally.
something I'll say. Like these types of decks often are board based decks, and board based decks just bad matchup for crush decks. Like if you've just got 24 pips, 6 board wipes, and you're not even playing your creatures. You're just throwing them in the trash because you have an auto encoder, and you're just like slamming down pips, slamming down board wipes, creature control. You're gonna have a tough matchup. It's gonna be a hard time.
Yeah.
Um, but if you're playing against an opponent who is using another board-based deck, or using even maybe like a certain type of control deck, you might be able to find an advantage that you wouldn't have against like the crush decks necessarily.
Mm. Yeah, I'm curious to see how some of that plays out once WoW kind of hits mainstream, and there are a whole lot more tokens to fight into, presumably. Um, we'll see. We'll
I'm
see.
trying to remember who it was I was watching at Keyforge Celebration. There was somebody who had a battlefield deck,
Mm.
and they were using it to a pretty good effect. Um, I can't even remember whose stream I was watching at the time, but I did see like a lot of good plays with some people kind of leaning more into the fighting, especially with those Brobnar decks. Um, Famously, Cloggins is somebody who really enjoys fighting. I think if there was somebody else to do this podcast aside from me, it would definitely be Cloggins.
Getting those fights. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, we'll see. I think back on the Keyforge celebration. It's mostly a blur of FOMO and jealousy for the folks who could attend. But yeah, it's cool. I don't know. I think that the stock of fighting could be on the rise once we have to at least keep those battle lines to the size of one playmat. You're gonna be bumping elbows with the person next to you. You got to throw some fights in there, just to keep it civil.
Oh yeah, I mean that also might be part of my local meta. Like maybe we are more incentivized to fight because we have smaller tables and we don't want to deal with our cards being cramped in. So maybe that's why we play that way. Maybe it's just like our background in different card games beforehand. Yeah,
Well,
that's an interesting thought.
I will say too that as a longtime Magic player, like one of the things that you get beaten to your head as a Magic player is like just fight more. Like they're not going to block, just fight. It's almost like if you're blocking, you're doing it wrong. Whereas in Keyforge, it almost feels like the default is kind of flipped, right? Like, are you sure you want to fight versus are you sure you want to block? You know, so that's interesting. I think my inclination early on was to fight, and then you kind of become get that beaten out of you a little bit by kind of the swirling general wisdom or at least convention. Um, so yeah, interesting to unlearn some of those things that you picked up in your early days of the game, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
it's
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no. I was just gonna say it is very common to see new players just learning the game to want to fight a lot.
Yeah,
Well,
and it might have started out like that with us too.
I think it's a natural thing. It's a you look at the game and it's a part of the uh, it's a part of the aesthetic. You look at the Brobnar dudes swirling, swinging around big axes, and you're like, okay, this we're gonna be throwing down. This is gonna be a thing, and it's a race, but there's gonna be fighting, and so it's really cool when a mechanic that's sold as part of the world or the fantasy side of the game can be more relevant to like the actual mechanics and gameplay. Um, I really love how Keyforge like actually lives the promise of being a racing game, and I think that it's cool that there are decks out there too that can really lean into fighting as being a thing. We've talked a lot about how AOA and DT really made you care about your battle line placement much more so than maybe Coda did. And that was a really cool thing because you have the game described to you and you're like, oh, these flanks, and you have to think about where you put them, and then you play for a little bit and you're like, well, does it really matter in Coda? And like maybe not so much. And it was really cool to see that becoming a thing that mattered a whole lot more. And I think fighting goes along with that to an extent, certainly, but maybe will become even more so as there are a lot of tokens flying around too.
Yeah, I mean, the Dark Tidings and Winds of Exchange definitely do lean into that like battlefield placement a lot more, particularly in things like Sanctum, Untamed, and Saurian. Saurian in Winds of Exchange, I won't like be specific on any cards as far as spoilers and stuff goes. I'm kind of trying to figure out what their theming is because there are certain cards in Saurians that will say do such and such for however many creatures to the left or to the right of this creature. And it
Mm-hmm.
seems like they're trying to like thematically get across some kind of like battlefield formation orientation where maybe you want to put like all of your soldiers to one side and all of the politicians and like lower level creatures to the other side.
Hmm.
I haven't sat down and like looked at it enough to try to figure it out, but it seems like there's some kind of like theming there as far as battlefield placement and like maybe something historically with like Roman flank setups or something. I know stuff
Interesting.
like Hoplite's Dory. It kind of like Hoplite is like a class of citizens, I think, and Dory is a spear, and it's kind of an allusion to like certain like common battlefield setups and formations. Um, there's a card that's like Phalanx Leader, I think. I still need to kind of get used to all of the new Winds of Exchange cards.
I'm looking forward to hearing your analysis then of that. I didn't pick up on that with the Saurian. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's just me trying to like look at the world and the theming and how they're really kind of bringing all of that into the gameplay experience. Because I don't know if anybody else does this, but I'll often actually visualize the vault battle going on and try to like think about what these characters look like interacting with each other. Like what visually does it, this is a bad example because I don't actually have a good explanation for you, but like what does Screaming Cave look like on the battlefield in the vault battle when you use it? Like does it just like suck everything in and just like spit it out randomly? I don't know. Some of them are a little bit tricky and ephemeral like that. Others you can kind of Bad Penny. We know what Bad Penny's going to do.
I love that you have this different perspective that you bring to it. This is all stuff that I wouldn't have thought of. I wouldn't have considered when I play this game. So that's really cool. I appreciate
Totally.
that.
I think it's
Totally.
what's kept me hooked. Yeah.
It's kind of
Love it.
like kind of come full circle for me. I want to say I really got into Magic. I don't know, like, whatever, 30 years ago or whatever. First from the art kind of pulled me in, and then I think Keyforge kind of hooked me because of because it evoked a lot of the things that I loved about early Magic. You know, um, so I don't know,
Yeah. Kind
fun,
of
fun.
on this point, this is actually a good spot to bring up another really good reason to look for these types of decks that are good at fighting and that want to use their creatures to like fight and get rough and tumble is the Keyforge Adventures. There's two
Mm.
out. There's one about to come out. There's fan made Keyforge Adventures like homebrews and stuff. Uh, I have one. It's in the works. It's kind of in like still in testing phases of like the last year and a half, 2 years. Um, but it's mostly finished. The Keyforge Adventures offer a lot of fun gameplay experience, especially when you bring in different decks with different strategies and try to like really figure out how to make them work. I played a deck against the Keyraken where I just had like double custom office and I think it was like three Umbras, and I'm just constantly using the Umbras to like, pardon me, fight down their creatures and taxing them with the customs office every time they play a thing, using grasping vines to throw them back on top so that I'm going to get three more double steals off of it.
Oh, funny.
One
Nice.
of,
Yeah.
one of my lowest rated Worlds Collide decks has a lot of really fun fight effects in it. Um, there's it. It's actually one of my store leader decks. One of the few times I participated online in a tournament, I got a store leader deck because it was sealed, and they were giving out the store leader decks. The deck I got, it was like I want to say like a 49 SAS or something like that, 52. It's real low. Um, and it had a fun thing where I had Brobnar because it was um, Trimmer was my alt art card. The Brobnar is not bad. Brobnar just likes to fight. It's got a lot of fight stuff going on. Um, the Dis House, almost every card in the Dis House, except for I think like an Onyx Knight, have fight effects.
Hmm.
And there's actually a Maverick Eterome in the Untamed of that house or of that deck. And I like to think that the Eterome wasn't violent enough for the disc, and they kicked it out, and so it now has to sit in disc because it didn't have a fight effect.
No reaping here. Yeah, get out of here.
That
I believe
poor
that deck has
demon's just
a
like,
Kangafant.
yeah, he's just hanging out in the woods with a Kangafant and an ancient bear, trying to blend in without being noticed. He's like, nah, you pretty sure you're a demon.
Yep.
But it has, I think that deck has double or triple Rustnar. Um, it has it has an Ire Staff, which is fun because I'm fighting with the creatures a lot anyways, boosting them up. The Ire Staff helps kind of work around the Onyx Knight.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Hmm.
that's one of the decks either has a Vigor or a Stampede to kind of like help make some cash off of fighting as well. And you got two flexes in the Brobnar that get a lot of value off of Gravel Guts and Mega Grog Nine Toes. If you fight with the two of those, you're going to get more value out of the flexes. So it's a very low SAS deck, but it plays very aggressively. Um, and I have a few of those decks that are just like very small, very scrappy. They don't. They're a super underdog. They're like Little Mac and Punch Out. Like if they get it down, if they do all the ducking and weaving right, if they land the right hits, they get it. But it's real tricky. Um, a DT deck I have has, I think, three upgrades that give you skirmish,
Hmm.
uh, and it has like a little Nif makes you want to fight. It has a lot of incentive to fight, but it only has 11 or 12 creatures, and most of them are 1 and 2 power. You have stuff like Little Smiling Roof, like I said, Little Nif. Um, I don't actually remember exactly what's in it. I think it's the individual known as Nitro, might be the deck.
Hmm.
I have more DT than anything else, so I get a lot of their names mixed up.
Yeah, I have a similar problem. Problem in quotes. I mean, I think I have the most more DT than any other set as well. And some of them, the identities do kind of blend together. I have one that I picked out. Maybe we'll play it later. That does lean into the fighting a bit more with Sanctum. It's like got like the Gray Augur, and it has two Sanctum Guardians, which will let you
Mm,
um, change places in the battle line after they fight. So you can kind of sit next to the Gray Augur, fight with it, gain for the Gray Augur, move it somewhere else to switch it with someone else, and have someone else gain the Amber from the Gray Augur, like in the
Mm-hmm.
same turn, one after the other. Um, and I have a number of other similar Dark Tidings decks that I opened around the same time that I kind of get them mixed up. But like that Sanctum House is one that sticks out to me as a big fighter.
yeah, I think Sanctum. Um, they kind of had it in AOA. They had a lot where you could get away with fighting and not damaging your creatures. So you had stuff like Shield of Faith, Hallowed Hallowed Shield, um, the armor smiths, those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
They were a lot about um, fighting and preserving your creatures through fighting, and I think Untamed picks up a lot of that too, with a lot of skirmish and a lot of power counters and a lot of healing. Untamed is about kind of like growing and preserving your battle line and really like fleshing it out and bulking it up. So they kind of like share that sort of personality a lot. But when you start getting into like with Sanctum and then onto DT, they get a lot more violent. So you get Grey Rider come back, but then you also have Seeker of Truth come back on top of that. You get
Mm-hmm.
Gizelheart, Zealot, and Cleansing Wave in the same set that like want you to sort of fight and get damage on your creatures, so you can get more value out of it. You've got Smite really helping with that, helping play into that. Um, so yeah, Baldric the Bold. Uh, and it's really interesting to see that kind of arc of Sanctum, how they like lean a bit more into the fighting, where they're not doing it carefully. They're doing it more like I don't know. It's nice to see.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. Right on.
So we
Well,
might be playing some Sanctum then, I guess later. It
we
sounds.
we might be. I mean, we'll have to pick out some
Right.
decks here to play in a second. We are, yeah, coming up on the old Crucible timed Rumble time. Any other? I don't know if there are any other points we want to hit before we transition, but I want to make sure we don't miss anything big that we wanted to hit. Hmm.
Nothing else for you, Ketzer? I think I hit all the notes that I had.
If there is, it's escaping me at the moment, and it's maybe not that important, anyways.
What usually happens is we close out the podcast, we play the game here on TCO, and then during the game on TCO, it comes up and you remember it, and you're like, man, I really wish I'd remembered that for the podcast session because it
Mm-hmm.
was a really good one. It happens every week, so
Murph had a
Okay, okay.
great story on the game last time, so I'm encourage folks to check out the games too if they're not doing it
I was gonna
already.
say no one's ever gonna hear it now. Well,
Mhm. So yeah, Ketzer, save your great story for the game. Folks will stick around for that too. Well, cool. We got we got a quick note from our sponsor, then we'll wrap up. I want to tell you all, folks, that this episode of Bottom of the Beaker was sponsored by Vineapple Paste, the all-purpose paste that's great for everything from brushing your teeth to fixing your bike. Don't need that peanut butter. Don't need that Vegemite. Get yourself some Vineapple Paste today. If you like Bottom of the Beaker and want to see shows live, you catch us here at twitch.tv/sloppylabwork. 9:30 Eastern Time is when we're streaming these recordings. For archives or past shows, check out youtube.com. Search for @sloppylabwork there. And for the very best content, 34? No, 57 times distilled. Search for Bottom of the Beaker in your podcatcher of choice. You'll find us there. Giving you a nice big punch. Nice big punch this time. Mm-hmm. Thanks so much, Ketzer. This was a lot of fun. We're going to play a game, but do you want to say any farewell to the folks getting off the last audio stop here?
Just everybody, be chill, be kind to each other, enjoy the Winds of Exchange as it's coming out. If you haven't given the adventures a shot, definitely try it. Like, they don't take too long. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with friends. It's just about the only way that you can play Keyforge as a team, as a co-op sort of thing. And it gives you a real different perspective on the game when you're able to do things like take an upgrade heavy deck and play all of your upgrades and ward all of your friends' creatures so that they have like this really big, awesome battle fleet to go against it, and you can support each other and stuff. Definitely try out the adventures. If you were playing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, stop torturing the Koroks. They don't deserve it. They're just cute little guys. Stop. If you're doing it, stop, please.
I always feel so bad
Uh,
when I accidentally drop them.
yeah, that's one thing. That's fine. They're tough.
Okay.
They can
Whew,
take
all
it.
right.
It's the people who are like putting them on big flaming planks of wood and throwing them in holes, and if it's all over YouTube. It's I just want to come on. Link's not that guy.
No.
Link's not that guy. This isn't Last of Us. Um, anyways, that's the last I'll bring up Zelda.
No, please. You can keep going. JT's probably a big fan. He just
All,
doesn't know it yet.
all of that whole segment's going right straight into the Orinkar of time. I don't
Mm.
know. And quick draw, anything from you?
Just huge thanks again to Ketzer for joining. This was a lot of fun. I loved hearing your different stories and perspectives on Keyforge. So thank you very much. This is a fantastic time tonight. Thank you guys, and to everyone listening now, just stay sloppy out there.
Stay sloppy. Yeah. Is it Ocarina of Time or Orinkara? I said Orinkana, but it's like Ocarina or something, right? I don't know.
Ocarina.
Yeah,
Ocarina.
Ocarina. Yeah.
Ocarina? No.
Ocarina? Oh, I
Close
always
I
said
enough.
think, I think
Ocarina.
it's Ocarina because it's an Italian word.
Ah, okay.
Ah,
It means little goose.
Ocarina.
That's true. I never
It's
thought about that. That
it's
is
kind of
100%
a
true.
it's kind of like a 1600s cultural appropriation uh, that still stands. And if you want to be more PC about it, you can say vessel flute. Vessel flute is a bit more broad of an umbrella term for the types of that instrument. And ocarina was sort of a thing that an Italian uh, inventor mass produced, and he came up with like a certain design for it based off of what people were bringing from Mesoamerica.
Unbelievable.
Sorry.
That's
Unbelievable.
great.
I'm gonna scrap the whole episode. We're just gonna put that out. 'Cause that was incredible. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I learned so much there. That was sweet. We do love our we do love like our pronunciation and historical lessons on the show too. So sweet. I'll have to figure out a place to work that in. Um, all right, I am gonna cut the audio recording now though, so that's gonna get uploading and adjust our layouts. Cool. All right, sweet. So let's play a game. Do we have some decks in mind that folks would like to play?
Uh, so
Did
as
I have one?
Yeah, as you might know, Ketzer, we like to play hand and brain here. So it'll be JT and I versus you. One of us is the hand, the other one's the brain. And what we also like to do is whoever owns the deck plays as the brain, so that the person with playing as the hand is not as familiar with the decisions. They have to kind of learn on the fly with it. So if we end up playing with one of my decks, JT will be the hand, and vice versa. So I don't have a preference, JT. I don't know. Do I usually end up playing as the hand, or do we have like a tendency here?
Either way, I guess if I have the mouse, it's convenient to be the hand, but it doesn't really matter a ton. Yeah, I can always log in. I guess I can always go in. Let's flip a coin. Let's flip a coin, or ask the chat. Who should be the brain, JT or Quick Draw? And good question, Murph. It's because JT is so short now because the the system that we're using for recording audio changes its layout when you stop recording, but still shows video. So things shift around, and then I have to adjust it. It's kind of funky.
Speaking of which, how do I interact with the window that just popped up? Is it the just X or no thanks?
Oh,
Oh, did you get a confirmation that it was finished?
Files have finished uploading.
yeah.
Yeah, you're good then.
Looks like you're good.
Just exit. Okay.
Yep.
Just don't exit the whole window, or we'll lose you.
Gotcha.
Um,
Do you fellas mind if I take just a few minutes to go use the restroom real quick?
that'll let us settle our little fight about who gets to play as the hand. Yeah.
Yep. Go for it.
In the meantime, I guess I'll ask the chat, and I'll have y'all tell me when I get back. Would you rather see a Pestergrove deck or an Omnipus deck?
That's
Pestergrove or
sorry.
Omnipus?
That's my
Good.
question
for the
for the
chat.
chat.
So,
Your opinions while I come back.
all right, they'll have an answer by the time you get back. And Murph rolled a D2, but he did not tell us what 1 or 2 meant, so I'm not sure how that was supposed to help us there.
Yeah, we did. Uh, yeah, Orion, we did you dirty. I'm gonna just come right out and say it. We did you dirty. I apologize for that.
It's because we made it a reversal game, which we should never do again.
No. Oh yeah, yeah. We. So all right, we rolled a two. Uh, uh, this is for hand two. Okay. So quick draw is the hand. I'm gonna be the brain. Okay. So you'll make the game, and
Okay.
I will.
Thank you, thank you, Murph, for making some decisions for us since we can't do that on our own. I will play the hand. So JT, you tell me which deck I am playing then, and
Okay.
I'll load it up.
I have. I feel like it would be. I think G Noir is pretty. Dame du Vestibule
Pretty
is
spicy
is
though.
is pretty spicy. It's pretty spicy. I don't know. It's pretty spicy, and Lorian's too spicy. Lorian's too spicy.
Yeah. I'll find a way to lose anyway with it.
I don't have time for Gemello.
No, we do. No, we don't have time for that one. I did not realize how much that one stretches games. I also want to play with one of yours. Do you have any other? Even if it's not DT, like I'll survive if I don't play DT for one night.
Well, I do have a pretty good let's see, fighty deck. I have some Pester Grove decks. I have a Pester Grove deck that's really cool. It actually has a lot of pips. So maybe is more of a Pester Grove deck than a fighting deck, but
Is this
the
which one is
Savant that calms the just. 20 pips, Pester Grove.
it? Ooh,
Um, but 15 creatures, not terribly fighty. Some upgrades and armor, but
this feels like one of those decisions for the brain, and the hand is not allowed to help.
oh sure. Hmm. 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 Interesting. Interesting. Well, let's pop into the old favorites. The old favorites. There's only a few of those, right? 63 favorites.
Not many.
Not many.
Proximal says bring Coliseum.
I have one Coliseum deck, and it's too spicy. I think Pedro is actually a very spicy Coliseum deck. We didn't talk about it, but the Coliseum in this deck is very much live, and often the Buzzle is a champ. Buzzle gets exhumed, and then mows down your own battle line to get the last fights in there, and turn on the Coliseum. I agree with you, but I am also a coward. I don't know. It's fine.
I, I I mean, if we want to cheat the system, we could say that you play as the hand, and I have a DT deck that I think is a fighty deck.
Ooh, that's. Ooh, wait, how about the admin of Magnetopia? This one's pretty cool. Yeah, triple fire breath.
19 creatures. Okay.
Yep, Ganger
World
Chieftain.
Collide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That seems like it might be good.
It's pretty
Some
fun.
World Collide Robnar. I like it.
So
So
that's
it
it.
looks like, yeah, Ketzer, welcome back. I think we got 2 votes for Pester Grove.
Oh, and you're muted there, Ketzer. Just so you're aware. On the Zencaster side, you'll have to hit the button. So that could be an option. Danazag.
There we go. Did that fix things?
Yeah,
Got
they
it.
are.
Okay, cool. So Pester Grove.
Yeah, sounds like Pester Grove is the winner for you. JT is having some trouble making decisions tonight.
I am. Well, how many peppers on a spiceometer would you give this deck that you're playing? Yeah, if we were looking to make a nice matchup for it.
This doesn't really mean anything because it's a DT deck. but the SAS is 68.
Okay, okay. So you'd probably say three and a half peppers range out of five, maybe.
We're trying to
Maybe.
Yeah,
establish
maybe.
a better system for evaluating decks, and that is just sloppy peppers, I think.
Yeah, I'd say probably 3.5 peppers, maybe.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
Um, I'll say so. It's got the Pester Grove. It sets up the whole battle to revolve around fighting. The reason it has it that it likes to fight a lot is because it doesn't need to reap. It has a lot of amber pips.
Okay,
Okay.
so JT, you were shying away from a deck that had a lot of amber pips.
It is also a Pester Grove deck. That could be
Should
fun
we
then.
do double
I'm
Pester
talking.
Grove then?
All the Pester Groves.
Make sure we get it soon.
Okay. All right. Let's
All
do
right.
that.
Send me a link. I'll load it up.
Which okay. It might be easier for y'all to start a game.
Yeah, I can start a game once I get this one loaded. I'll make it right now, actually. Put it in casual. Password is sloppy. And I remember to show hands to spectators this time.
Okay. Cool. Twice as angry. Such anger. So there's in the chat the savant that calms the just. I would put this in the maybe 3 peppers, maybe 4 peppers, in the 3 to 4 peppers range. Yeah.
All right, let's see what I'm dealing with here.
And I'm bringing Bhagat NT Crowley. I usually just call this deck Crowley.
It's a very good omensy of the deck. Yeah.
Oh man, the Savant is only a
So good.
65, but I would say this is pushing 4 peppers.
Pushing the creature control is suspect. You're gonna have to be fighting with your 15 creatures, getting some use. But
I'm gonna be fighting. I'm into the Savant right now.
mm-hmm.
All right, good luck, have fun, Ketzer. Thanks for playing.
Good luck. Have fun.
All right, so hands are open. JT is the brain. I'm going to go first. So JT will tell me which house to call each turn. Will tell me which color key to forge. Unfortunately, he always chooses wrong the first time. And he will call the mulligan here as well if he wants me a mulligan.
I will say no mulligan. No
Okay,
mulligan.
we're going to keep it.
Trying to. It's been a minute since I've gone on TCO. My cards are very small. That's okay though. They're very small because on my account, a lot of how I've played recently has been on my mobile device, and so you have to do some weird messing with settings.
Have you been able
But
to
I think this is
successfully play on a mobile?
sorry. I sort of have. There's some issues that I ran into. I do have a video of doing that on YouTube. If you go to Ace of Keys on YouTube, I think it's like one of 2 videos that I have up currently. There will be more once I get my Winds of Exchange here soon.
Nice.
But
Sweet.
yeah, playing on mobile is you kind of need a stylus.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think a stylus would probably help with that.
Yeah, and I have no idea where my stylus is at, so I haven't done that in a while.
Well, you're gonna play on a laptop right now, and you're gonna never go back.
Right.
All right.
Laptop is how I played the couple tournaments that I was in.
Yeah,
I think on this same laptop actually.
I would be very stressed playing a tournament on a phone.
Yeah, no.
Well, I guess you need a house for me on Quick Draw.
I do. Yeah, I've been waiting for this house for a very long time. I already have my entire 3 turns planned out.
All right. I'll put you out of your misery. I'm gonna go Untamed.
Oh, okay.
Already differing, right?
Already scoffing. Yep. Let's see. He's got Untamed, Sanctum Unfathomable. Let's just raise the tide, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Okay.
I would have gone Star Alliance there
I bet you would have. I bet you would have. Mm-hmm.
for maintaining. Well, I think it would have been. Yeah, I'd be maintaining a 7 card hand.
You would be maintaining a 7 card hand. You would. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
I
I
like
don't.
that first turn play though of that card that I'm referring to.
So before the
So
Pester Grove even comes out, I do have like a bit that leans into the fighting here. I'll
nice.
kind of show what I mean here.
Gonna
If you had played any creatures, I had this old Patty, um, and then my plan would have been to throw this Instrument of Silence on there, and then assert dominance.
Mm-hmm.
hmm Yeah.
Um, I also
Instead, you
have
get
this little guy.
to, yeah,
I can reap.
but you don't have the tide yet,
I
so
do not have the tide. That's
you'll still get one.
kind of what I'm considering. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and reap with that. Let's put you over here.
Not bad. Yeah, that's a 3 creatures to start against a deck with not much C. So pretty good start.
Pretty spicy. Um, all right, back to us. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Star Alliance now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first turn play that I like personally is the Lay of the Land.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some pretty good stuff here. Yeah, I'm into this. All right, so and I draw a card, and now I
Mm-hmm.
get a Make It So. So I know exactly what's coming up. So we get a Star Alliance there. I choose a Sanctum here. And now I think the best thing is to just go with Star Alliance, even though it's pretty low odds to hit it. Do I gamble? 7, 11. Yeah. Let's try Sanctum again. Oh, I got one. This is exciting. This is exciting.
And then
Making it happen.
12 minutes later, Quick Draw's got deck in hand, still rolling.
That would be amazing. We're gonna go Sanctum again. I hit it. Oh, this is gonna go on forever. I'm gonna switch it up to Untamed. Oh, I whiffed the Grand Melee. Okay. Well, that was pretty sweet. I'm pretty pleased with myself. I think that's the most Make It So's I've ever hit in one time, even though I cheated for the first two.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now let's get a Kincan out there. Let's beef up this Kincan with the Light of the Archons and a Force Field and a Sabotage Mission, and that puts me at check already.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So that Kincan's at like 4-2?
4-2, yeah.
Yep.
And elusive. Don't forget the elusive.
And elusive.
Elusive.
Yeah, so I saw the Lay of the Land as a decent first turn play. I guess with Make It So, I don't know. I like going. Yeah.
You still would have had to Make It So the next turn.
You still would have had to Make It So that's next turn. Do you get any more from it though? You know, like you don't actually get any added benefit. I think I would have gone Untamed, but not Raise the Tide and put a dude on board.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't super ideal, but I do want to deal with that.
Nice. Not bad.
Yeah, that's cool.
Ooh, a Brain Drain's good too.
Hmm.
It's probably a tough decision here.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's throw you over there.
All right.
Let's see how that
I almost chose the correct key, but now I have to let JT choose.
Red key, obviously.
All right.
Obviously the red key.
If you insist.
Oh boy.
So did you? Yeah, you saw that the Brain Drain put the Strange Ordination back on top.
Mm-hmm. I think I still like Sanctum anyway here. gonna go Sanctum.
Yep, I do too. Play that Grand Melee, play the Holdfast, and Taxing Journey.
Interesting. Oh, this is interesting actually. Cool note as the spectator. I think so. When you're playing, TCO will group the cards in your hand by house.
Mm-hmm.
But as a spectator, I think you see them in the order that they were drawn, or perhaps. Interesting.
Oh, I
So
noticed
yeah,
that
yeah,
they're not sorted as a spectator. I did not realize it did that though. Put them in
yeah,
order of drawing.
yeah. Order drawn. Interesting. A portal from Ketzer, taking the tide, as it were. Very nice. Okay.
Okay.
Very cool. Well, now there is
Not enough.
not.
I was
What's
just gonna
that?
say not enough fighting this game.
There's not enough fighting yet. We gotta go. We gotta go untamed. We gotta go
All right.
untamed.
To be fair, there
Um,
hasn't been a lot of reaping either yet.
That's true.
True.
That's true.
Very true. All right. So we're in Untamed. We are going to start by raising the tide with the cross porpoises.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I want to enrage? I think I. Well, Flamegill is going to be enraged, so don't need to do that one. Definitely going to be the youngest bear. And despite the Instrument of Silence, I think I kind of want to do the old Patty. Maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, I don't want you to get more creatures. So I'm going to do the old Patty as well. So you have a very angry board at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
And we
On theme. On theme.
do we have an infighting around? No. Okay. One less thing to think about. Fantastic. Probably gonna miss some battle line placement, but we'll do it anyway. Youngest bear, capture over there. Chonkers, capture on himself, and then the fittest getting ready for some fighting next turn. JT, you cracked the algorithm in TCO.
I
You
really
finally
did.
did it.
Oh, mama.
Hmm.
Cheats.
Let's go untamed. Take this back. Maybe a bad decision,
Ooh,
but let's see.
you got
Ooh,
a couple
okay.
more creatures. That is not going to be bad at all.
The chat calling our draws rigged.
Seriously.
They're not wrong.
Oh my goodness. All
Although,
right. Good.
yeah, what's
Ooh,
Holdfast next to two untamed duders? What's it? I guess you wanted the bear next to a non-untamed
I
creature.
did. Yeah. And then other than that, I don't really have a good answer for you.
Yeah, I think Ruin is on the. I mean, I guess there's infighting. Is there infighting?
No, I checked for it. I didn't see it. I
Okay,
probably missed it though.
so you just wanted a more impactful Grand Melee, right?
I already used the Grand Melee.
I'm just messing with you.
Ooh, there's the Legacy Darna. Nice.
yeah. It's more ideal if the Piranha Monkeys comes out first, but you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
it at least gets me something off of Chelonia.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the clumping in action that we talked about last time with Murph for sure. I mean, can I? I'm tempted to say Untamed just to mess with you, but I think it has to be Sanctum. Yeah.
All right, we got a big one coming. I am also gonna raise the tide. I think you made the right call to raise it last turn, especially with your Chelonia. Makes me
Mm.
take some chains here too. Um, all right, so I think we have to fight. That's the rule.
That's a rule.
Um, well, let's just play that Strange Ordination. Hopefully, you don't have a doorstep yet. Man, there's so many
Oop, that's
so
not
many
discard.
options. What's not discard?
I clicked open their hand, but I meant to meant to click open the
Okay.
discard. No, whoops. All the cheats. Yeah, the chat's not gonna like me very much.
Mm, this is. I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight here.
Yeah.
He's got a 7 power with 5 damage on him. Sorry, 7 power with 2 damage on him. Everything would kill him except for the Darna. I feel like I have to fight the Darna out of principle here.
That was part of the reason I fought the youngest bear into that, was to put a little bit of damage on it. So if you did fight, you might have to sacrifice it.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I am gonna fight because that's just the theme of the day. But I want it to survive, so I am gonna fight the Darna,
Mm-hmm.
and then we will shifting battlefield, move the youngest bear to a place that JT appreciates a little bit more, and another shifting battlefield. Let's switch those ones up. Oops. Oh well.
Hmm.
I don't know what TCO prompts are doing to me there, but I don't think that's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Straight to Sanctum. He's got it.
Let's see it. Barrister Joya, very nice.
That ensures some fighting. Yeah.
Capture Pip. Okay, so probably not the doorstep. We'll see. Yeah.
I actually did this out of order. I should have done that doorstep first.
Oh, he's got the bring low.
I forgot that bring low. I forgot that the Joya had a pip on her.
Ah, yep. Yep. Sneaky pips.
Still a good bring low.
Still a good bring low. Yeah. Ooh. I mean, I think I'm gonna say Sanctum here. I'm gonna say Sanctum here.
We are in agreement on that. Start with a Radiant Truth to stun those in the middle. Let's I apologize. Oh, I can't reap. Okay. Well, I don't need to apologize. I take it back. I was going to apologize for reaping, but I'm not allowed to reap, so literally not allowed to reap. Let's Man, there's so many decisions here that I don't even know if it's necessary. Let's fight into Joya. And then fight into Chelonia. Yeah, this is I'm going pretty impromptu here. Let's fight into the Flame Gill to ready the Holdfast and get rid of the Barrister. I don't think Holdfast will ready after Salvador fights here, but I'm going to try it anyway, just to get rid of the Chelonia. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. He did not take any damage, so it did not ready. So, yeah, I kind of pivoted halfway through that turn. I was like, I should just use the Barrister, or use the Golgotha to fight the old Patty, and then I kind of changed my mind on that, and try to get a little bit of value out of the Holdfast instead.
Yeah. I guess the Holdfast may have finished off Chelonia. Salvador fights into Old Patty to ready the Holdfast, maybe?
Say that again?
I said the Holdfast could have finished off the Chelonia, and then Salvador fights into Old Patty. But I don't know if that's better. It was just an option to get one more
No, you're
EU set
probably right.
Holdfast.
Yeah,
Ooh, this is cool.
that is cool. That's a spicy mookling.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
Setting up that big doorstep now. That's a big
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Uh, how about Oof, this is tempting. I think now I actually want to go Untamed.
Okay. All right. I like to just make my opponents play their cards. So if you've got the doorstep, good for you. It's not going to change my plans here. I am going to kill that mookling though. So I will fight that off with skirmish and gain 1. Let's put the Way of the Pixie on. I think I'll do it on the youngest bear. And then reap there. And then reap with the gatekeeper. So I'm up to 14. That's a very solid check.
14's a lot. Let's
That
see.
was a good call indeed on what I had planned.
Oh, you played the Strange Ordination first. You could
Oh,
have.
yep.
Uh,
It's been a minute since I played.
we
Ordering is very important in Dark Tidings. Learn from my mistakes.
It is. I'm very happy to manual mode that and give you that 3 amber.
Oh no, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person that lives with their mistakes, and
It's
I
one
get
way to learn. You have to live through it to learn. That's, I think, true.
All right.
I need the pain to remember it.
I like your style. I like your style. Okay, let's try then.
Oof. Not a good move on my part.
That happens. It happens. Oh, I have to think on this one a second here.
Yeah, there's some good options here, I think.
I like that. I like that. Let's say Star Alliance.
Okay. This will be a tricky turn here.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can burst bit though.
Another habit that I have about playing Keyforge in general is I don't ever bother looking at the opponent's deck list, so I have no idea what's coming.
You're going to be surprised. It's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's try.
Keeps it interesting. I like it.
Let's try this. All right. So we are going to put a Teresa on the Deepwater Groon.
Ooh.
I will Can, which will let me use the Deepwater Groon. 6 power. I don't think I need to reap with it. Just going to raise the tide. Don't need to raise the tide, so let's just fight with it. Let's put some damage on that Patty. And we are going to Unity or Discord to return the Groon and the upgrades on it, which will put you in check. And I will concede the key. Put the Teresa on the youngest bear, which will let me reap with the youngest bear for 2, and then reap with the gatekeeper. And play the Unity Discord again, and I am not going to bounce this time, but I am going to use the Lord Golgotha to fight and clear your side of the board.
Mm.
How'd I do, JT? Report card.
No, that was good. If you had one more play, it might have been to bounce the youngest bear, and then replay the Teresa, giving one more amber, but you get a steal unless they go Sanctum from the from the Kincan. I don't know if that was better. That was what I was thinking, but I think there's a
Quite
case.
a bit late for this to come down, but there's the Pester Grove.
Hey,
I was looking forward to playing mine too.
mm-hmm.
I will let JT take my choose my house, and then I
Blue
would love
key.
to hear
Yeah.
Ketzer. I'd love to hear what you think the Pester Grove art is.
Oh, okay. We're going untamed blue key. Oh wait, blue key or untamed. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It looks to me like some Martians, or is that Star Alliance creatures in a forest being attacked by trees?
Definitely looks like Star Alliance from what I can see.
Mm-hmm. I'd go Star Alliance as well.
All right, so we've got a Wave the Pixie, which we have in discard here. Let's just reap, burst up a little bit, reap again. For some reason, I just don't want to give you an extra amber. I don't know. Leave the Teresa flank open for youngest bear. Put in an enraged Gruin, an enraged witch.
Okay. It looks like the artist that painted Pester Grove hasn't actually like uploaded any full-sized arts since Worlds Collide.
Huh.
Mm. And the Instrument of Silence is going to go back on the Gruin. So I got it checked with 11.
Oof. I think that's it. I don't. Yep. This does not work immediately. And that is all I got.
All right, good
Okay,
game.
Good game.
Did we swindle the guest again, JT?
We did. But hey, we ended the game with the Pester Groves on the board.
A little bit of enraging, a little bit of fighting happening that game.
Lots of enraged tokens. Yeah, this is a win. A win.
It's definitely a good matchup. Very.
I mean, you couldn't see the hands. It was silly. Like the first hand you saw with the Make It So, I just like drew everything and
yeah, the Make It So was pretty harsh.
It was. And then the turn right after that, I had a handful of 5 Untamed with like a Gruin and some pips. Turn after that, I had a hand of 6 Sanctum. So like, just the cards fell our way this game for sure.
I can usually get more value out of the like the Chelonia and the Darna Piranha Monkeys type of combo.
Mm-hmm. That's some good
usually
stuff,
do a little bit more for me than that time.
Yeah.
I think I still had another Strange Ordination and an Allure of Grandeur.
Yeah.
Illusions of Grandeur coming up.
Yeah, and your Growth Surge can help ensure that things like Chelonia survive the Piranha Monkeys, right?
Mm-hmm. I had the Growth Surge, and then I think you got the you got rid of it before I could drop it down on it.
Yeah.
But that's like exactly why, because you were concentrating on fighting and you were removing types of threats that I had like that.
Yeah. Yeah, always got to kill the witch.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got value out of that Grand Melee. Um, but otherwise, it was pretty much just fighting to kind of manage the board for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple misplays because I'm a bit rusty, particularly like doing a DT where card order is very particular and very
Mm-hmm.
important.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even if I would have played those correctly, I might have ended with one more key.
Yeah.
But I think that still would have gone in your favor. I thought about mulliganing at the beginning to try to dig for that Pester Grove, but I saw the opportunity with the old Patty and the assert dominance and the instrument of silence. That was like I felt like that was a good example of like some of the things you can do around these sorts of strategies. So
Yeah.
even if you had played creatures, I was going to fight one with Instrument of Silence. If you didn't play creatures, I was going to get the ready and fight value, but still be able to reap and get the patty value
Yep.
off of that. So it was a good
Yeah.
way to show like how some of these kinds of decks, particularly with like Untamed, you can get those sorts of like fun interactions and strategies. And in some decks, they just show up more than others.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You didn't get to get the Badge Magus out either. That's a good
Yeah,
fighty card.
that last Untamed turn I took, I had looked at the. I don't do this often, but I was like, "What? I've got 8 card. What cards do I have left out of the 8 that are still in there?" And they were all Unfathomable and Sanctum.
Yeah.
So I was like, "All right, I'll just use the Untamed now while I
Hmm.
got it, and then I'll just deck it or two house deck it until I
Yeah.
flip."
Yep.
Definitely, it's a good strategy. I often look and see what's coming up in the deck, and if there's only like one or two left of a house, and I have two of that in my hand already, I don't want that chaining me down the rest of the game, basically. So
Yep.
it's good to just dump it when you can.
Yeah. Burn through it. And we got actually a lot of value out of the Holdfast and the Instrument of Silence. So it was pretty cool to see those two together. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Holdfast is one of those cards. Like Sanctum is another really good house for fighting, and especially in DT, cards like Holdfast, they'll get you that extra value out of doing those fights.
Yeah.
That's why I was trying to get it out of there because I knew with the concentration on fighting, that one was gonna provide some value.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
Chonkers, I kind of went back and forth with the Chonkers because on one hand I was like, I don't want that to get out of control, but on the other hand, it would be kind of fun if it got out of control just for everybody watching.
Just
And
for the
Yeah.
science. Yeah.
I had actually in my head I decided against fighting with it, or I decided against fighting against it because I thought it would be more fun, but then my brain and my muscles just had already considered that path, so I just fought it and then immediately regretted it, and I was like, oh, what a killjoy I am.
Yeah.
The chunks.
uh, I saw a deck recently. I think it was yours, JT, that had two hold
The
fast,
double
and you just
Holdfast.
put them
Yeah.
side by
Mm.
side.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. Holdfast line. Hold the line. Hold the door. Yeah.
Yeah, start searching more Sanctum decks, especially like MMDT. Going a little bit more into Winds of Exchange, I think you got stuff like can't remember the name. There's one of them that makes a token when it fights.
Mm-hmm.
Probably
Uh,
Grobnar then. Yeah, I think was
no,
it
no,
Jarl
Sanctum.
Svend? Oh, Sanctum.
Yeah, there's a Sanctum creature that makes a token when it fight. Battle Evangelist, I think
Okay.
is what it's called. I should say spoilers for
Yeah.
anybody listening
You
hasn't
know,
gotten their cards yet.
I think
Uh,
there's a Brobnar that does something similar though, because I was playing with it last night.
yeah,
Um, uh,
Brobnar's got a lot really kind of leaning into it now.
yeah.
You've got Brick Nasty.
Mm.
You've got the Shock Herder to do the Ready and Reap. You've got the Might Club. One that I'm really interested in, a card I really want, is I want a Ancient Battlefield deck. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, no, I
Ancient
just want to
Ancient Battleground. Yeah.
Ancient Battleground. Yeah, I just want to
Yeah.
really double down on that fighting.
I was up against one of those last night. My a local friend I was playing against last night, he had the Ancient Battleground, and I was saying earlier, I just ended up realizing like I don't need to play any creatures in this game, and you just discard your creatures, and he has a huge battle line in front of him that can't reap. So I'm torn on Ancient Battleground. I think it could be really good, but I also think as the player with it, you need to recognize the games in situations where you should not play it.
You get an Ancient Battleground and Ryozoark. Well, with Bryozorak, you still get to resolve the pips on those action cards, don't you?
I think so. So Bryozorik is the unfathomable rare creature.
Yeah.
When your opponent plays an action, instead of resolving its play effect, destroy the creature on your left flank. So yes, they would still get any pips for it.
Okay. So
Hmm.
they could still win without playing creatures pretty easily, even if you had that. I don't know. It's maybe not a competitive deck, but it seems like a fun deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of fighting will happen in that one for sure.
Yeah, right on. And I guess that's what counts the end of the day. But yeah. Oh, Data Forge stream coming on Friday. Congrats.
Hey,
Very nice. Oh,
gotta
and
jump over there
decks
so I can
that
follow you.
Ketzer won too. Cool.
Ooh,
So
Mm,
some coming your way, Ketzer. Very nice,
nice.
courtesy of
that.
Data Forge stream.
I
Cool.
believe I
Well,
got the six. Those
let's
came
wrap it
in
up
before
there.
mine came in?
The pain is real.
Okay.
The pain is real.
I gotta.
Happy birthday to me, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy birthday indeed. Yeah, unfortunately we gotta wrap it up here. But that was an
Right.
awful lot of
Maybe has
fun.
game.
Indeed, indeed.
I,
Yeah.
I, I have to interrupt your closing out. I just refreshed my email for the 3,457th time, and my package is expected to deliver by Friday now.
Nice.
So it
What?
works.
They finally picked it up
They finally picked it
at
up.
like 10 o'clock at night.
Apparently, I'm not complaining.
Maybe
Um,
I should check mine too.
Check it again.
everyone, check your email right now.
Check your email right
Mash that
now.
refresh button. Yeah.
So that'll be the day before I leave on vacation. So I'll get a little bit of hype before I leave.
Hype
Okay, I
indeed.
interrupted you. Got really excited, but I'm telling you guys, the 3,457 refreshes
Well, it's still
works.
waiting to be collected. I need to do more refreshing
Yeah,
tonight
More
you got some
refreshes.
refresh work to do.
in
Yep.
between doing shrines.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Next week we're going to talk about Tears of the Kingdom, or actually probably like right after this we're going to talk about it.
Right
Right
on.
on.
Well, we'll wrap this up. We're gonna have some Tears of the Kingdom chat off camera, I guess. But thanks y'all for hanging out with us. See you around the lab.
Stay
Thanks,
sloppy,
Ketzer.
everybody.
Thanks to Ketzer indeed. Stay sloppy.